Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Haliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Haliburton bounces left sideline. Siakam there, gets it back to the left side. Haliburton to the left baseline, scoops it off the glass with the right hand. And the Pacers are successful on their first possession. Nembhard, way out near the logo at center, gives it up to Haliburton on that logo. Shot clock's at 10. Haliburton picked up by Allen at the edge of the arc, driving with the right hand, retreating with the left. He got to the top of the circle, found Nembhard in the far corner, and Nembhard missed the three, but the rebound bounced right back to him, and he sends it out to Turner, who hits a three from way out of the left edge. It's halftime in Cleveland. It's the Cleveland Cavaliers 61, the Indiana Pacers 50. 81-61. Haliburton gives it up left side into the corner. Nembhard back out near the timeline. Haliburton has it. Allen is on top of him right at that timeline. Shot clock to 7. Neesmith from the left sideline tees up a three and hits it. Nembhard brings it up for the Pacers. 3 minutes and 41 seconds remaining. Nembhard drives left side to the far corner. Neesmith for three, and Neesmith knocks it down out of the corner. His 5th three of the game. He's got 21 points. Indiana within 4 now. Ball comes in down near the corner. Nembhard got it to Haliburton. Haliburton retreats, feeds it back to Nembhard. Nembhard attacks, kicks it left edge. Siakam driving, he got to the goal. Left side, laid it in with a right hand. It's a 3-point game with 27.5 seconds to go. Second one is short, and it's rebounded by Haliburton.
They do have a timeout. Carlisle's going to let him play.
4 seconds to go. Haliburton for three! Three ball! Up top! Indiana by 1!
Haliburton steps back and hits. Tyrese Haliburton trying to take Cleveland's heart.
1 and 1/10 seconds to go. Inbound. Merrill didn't get it off, and this rivals the Milwaukee finish.
You have got to be kidding me.
The Indiana Pacers in a Game 2 stunner.
Unbelievable.
The final score in Game 2, the Indiana Pacers 120. The Cleveland Cavaliers 119.
Well done, James Adams right there with the open. That was Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill, and the Pacers Radio Network, heard right here on The Fan. That was also Spero Dedes, who's going to join us, along with Greg Anthony, coming up a little bit later on in the show. Last night was incredible. That was this Pacer team in a nutshell. That's who they are. They can play like we witnessed, for example, in the first quarter, in the third quarter, but they never quit. I was trying to think of an analogy to make regarding how this team plays and how they don't quit. Seriously, it's like the Terminator. You guys remember the film The Terminator in 1984? And it didn't matter whatever the hell you did. Man, Schwarzenegger got up and continued to go. He no longer had skin and blood and veins and bones. He was all just this metal piece of machinery. And he kept going. And he kept coming at you. That's what this group does. That's their identity. Their identity is that of a team. And I don't give a damn if Cleveland didn't have their 3 guys outside of Mitchell, their top 3 guys as non-participants. I don't care if it looked really as dominant as it was performance-wise in game number 1 when they had basically everybody but Darius Garland. All you can do is play the game that is in front of you. And that's what they do. That is what they do. That is what basketball is all about. And believe me, I was right there with you. You watched the first quarter. It was brutal. And really, the whole turnover aspect went deep into the second half, and it was driving me nuts too, because there were some turnovers that they made. This is not a characteristic of this team. But the one thing that you now understand, I don't know if it took the Milwaukee game, going back to last week, that game 5, that win, or again, being up 7 with 40-plus seconds remaining, and to do what they did last night in Cleveland to prove it to people, but that is this Pacer team's identity. You're not going to get that nationally because they simply don't know. And I understand. They haven't been with this team the entire season. We have. We've seen the ups since the start of the calendar year. We have seen the downs going all the way back to the start of the season. Remember how excited we were, and they started out so badly. And then Aaron Nesmith, who obviously now is as important of a player that you can find on this team. How many games did he miss because you had a jackass Willie Green who was on the floor and he stepped on his foot in New Orleans? Remember that? How important he is? And you have a team playing a high level of basketball, even when it isn't at the right time of year. My whole focus was to see this team ramp up, to start getting better, and you saw the cohesion work. You saw it go in from the regular season to the Milwaukee series, and now here. I don't want to hear a damn thing about who Cleveland didn't have. This was solely about who the Pacers have. They have a team that has a great deal of pride, and these guys, like the Terminator in 1984 and Arnold Schwarzenegger, they never quit. Never quit. There's no doubt Tyrese Haliburton has some big nads. And he did the Sam Cassell for you last night. He should. That was a big shot. I'll be honest with you. I was talking to Eddie Garrison on his way out here, the producer and sidekick for Jake Query and Query and Company. And I said, was there any evidence? Did anybody ask? Did they say that he missed that purposely? I thought when he missed that free throw, he did it purposely. He rarely, if ever, misses free throws. And that was like the softest touch, and understanding that the Cavaliers felt that it was easily going to be made, they relaxed. How often do you watch this? I mean, hell, you don't even pay attention to the free throw line anymore, do you? How many of you pay attention? And the Pacers basically won that game in doing just that. You had Nesmith a couple of plays prior coming in, swooping in, if you will, and finishing what should have been an and one, but they didn't call a foul on Donovan Mitchell. That should have been an and one. I mean, really, I'm not going to bag on the officials. We could if we wanted to. But that should have been an and one. And the lack of a flag, when your elbow hits somebody in the face, that's an issue for the guy that threw the elbow. I mean, normally basketball plays do not turn out to be, hey, this is my elbow and this is your face. Like my mom, I thought she needed paramedics last night. I was thinking I'm going to have to call the Greene County paramedics, and they would probably be there next week, but I was going to have to call them and say, hey, we need a little bit of help, because she was absolutely losing it. Now, she was cussing out Kenny Atkinson basically the entire, like every 5 minutes she'll call me and she'll go, this guy whined so much. All he did was whine before the game, and he whined so much, and now they're going to get every call. I'm so sick and tired of seeing Donovan Mitchell go to the free throw line. He's been there 100 times. And then she made this comment regarding Nesmith and the elbow to the face. She said, what do they think? Does Tony Brothers think that was excessive contact for Nesmith's face on the elbow of Donovan Mitchell? I said, all right, I got to go. Let me finish watching this game, please. So she was going crazy, and I was worried about her. But what occurred to me most of all is we got a thumbnail sketch, really a description of who this team is. They can go through lulls. Their first quarter, that was some awful basketball. Cleveland came out And Cleveland was physical. Everything that Kenny Atkinson is complaining passively, aggressively about yesterday and then now, that's how they played. You know, he talked about after the game last night, well, the Pacers are holding on and our guys are tired and they're holding on and being physical. If you watched how the Cavaliers came out, they were grabbing, clutching, and holding everybody. But you could tell on the bench with the Pacers, you could tell with Haliburton, who was leading on the bench when they got down 20, you could see he and Miles explaining to everybody, this is what you get in the postseason. You have to work through it. You have to work through it to get to where you need to be. That's exactly what they did. They have playmakers that people don't understand are playmakers. But overall, they are a team. They work off of one another. And I mentioned this last night. I had been adamant, and you know this if you listen to this show all the time. I've been adamant since going all the way back to the end of last year. Yeah, I want to see this team again. I don't want them to do anything different. I want them to keep everybody. I've been adamant to Stephen Simon. I said, hey, pay these guys and bring them back. Because it's still young. It is still growing. I mean, if you have to, and I mean, easy for me to say with your money, Simon family, yeah, go into that whatever second layer of the luxury tax is. Yeah, do whatever you need to do to keep these guys together because I think you have a special bond, a common bond that you rarely see anywhere else. I'm not just talking about in the NBA, but in professional sports. And you can see it with this group. And really, if you're from the state of Indiana, you can see it because we're supposed to be able to see team stuff like that in basketball, right? From the time that you're birthed, you slide right out and, hey, there you are in this state, and automatically you're in love with basketball. At least that's how I feel. And you are taught the team concept. Now, we live in a world where it's not a team concept. It's about one or maybe two or sometimes three elite-level players. But this is a team concept, and this is why I've always said you should embrace this team to its fullest because you rarely see it. And when you see it, I don't know how often it is actually successful. But when it happens, it is as fun as hell to watch. And I always thought that that's what people in this state could recognize more so than anything else. We live in a world where it's instant gratification. And you see these elite-level stars putting up 40-plus, and, hey, that's great. And around here, you're thinking you want 5 guys with 15 points or more. You want 4 guys, 20-plus or more. You want guys coming off the bench that are going in double figures, a couple of those. It is such a team concept. And really, with this era of the NBA, it's anti. Normally you have to have that elite level player. They always tell us, right? You have to have not only that one elite level player, but you have to have more than just one. You have to have multi. This team has really good players that play incredibly successfully together. And not a lot of teams are going to be able to dig out of that. And again, I don't care who's on the floor for the Cavaliers. How many teams are going to dig out of what we witnessed, a 20-point deficit? And you start thinking about how just your mind can play a role. Think about this. They'd already won game 1. So normalcy would dictate you've already done the work. So, hey, everything's okay. And you can relax. And relaxation leads to being soft. This team is not soft. This team didn't relax. I mean, this team fought through it because they stunk it up in a large portion of this game. They did. I mean, it's brutal. That first quarter was awful to watch. All that stuff we saw in game number 1, completely opposite of what they get in the first quarter of game 2. They didn't do anything right. And then you're thinking, oh, well, put in the bench and we'll see the bench. And the bench was like even worse. I felt bad. Like Jarris Walker, I thought, man, Jarris Walker is lost right now. I thought TJ had maybe his worst game. of the postseason. It was all, for lack of a better description, FUBAR. But the one thing you know about this group is they're going to hang with it. And again, the reason why I had been so adamant about them running this back, and we live in a town in which that is a dirty term because the Colts have kind of set a precedent of, yeah, we're going to run it back, and then you run it back, and you're 500 or below 500, you don't make the postseason, and la-dee stinking da. Thanks a lot. Oh, now you want to run it back with the basketball team? Thanks. Well, you got to go out. Hey, you got to go out at the trade deadline. What about DeAndre Hunter? You could have gotten him if you wanted to from the Hawks for a song and dance. It wouldn't have taken very much. You can make yourself better. I always wanted to see this group do it because I really love what Kevin and what Chad put together, and I love what Rick does in coaching them, and I want to see the growth, and they have that mixture of youth and experience. Remember when everybody thought they needed a 3-and-D guy? And now what do you think about Aaron Nesmith? No, Aaron Nesmith as a starter on your team, you're not going to be very good if he's going to be your starter. Think anybody's saying that crap now? No. But beyond that is the team. And you watch the way that they came back. You watch the way that they won that late. And Haliburton made the shot. And you're going to need that dude. You're going to need that type of dude. But you can go over whether it was Siakam, who was struggling, who wasn't himself, it didn't seem, but he made some shots late. Miles made some shots and then tipped it out on that rebound. Again, when the Cavaliers relaxed, that was all on their ass. They relaxed. They relaxed on that. They relaxed on the Nesmith put-back dunk, and they were incredibly fortunate that wasn't an N1. I don't know what in the hell they were watching. That was absolutely an N1, but it wasn't. You know, they reviewed the whole flagrant thing. How many times in the NBA do you see an elbow make significant contact to the face and, hey, you know what? It's a flagrant one. Normally it is. They didn't rule it that way last night. Think about all the things the Pacers had to fight through. You know, I know Cleveland's going to say, well, we didn't have our guys out there. But that was a battle right there. You were putting up with a lot of crap, including yourself. I mean, you had to look in the mirror, too, and size up yourself and say, you know, why did we look like that in the first? You know, why in the second are we down 20 again? Why are we not making any headway? We can't get a stop. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell's out there dancing. Yeah, I know. He went to the free throw line 21 times. You knew that was going to happen. Again, people point to Kenny Atkinson as saying, well, this guy's just whining. Sure, that's what coaches do because they're trying to gain an edge. That is from the Phil Jackson handbook. The postseason handbook means from Phil Jackson, and I'm sure it probably started before him, but certainly we know it from him, you whine about everything because you're always trying to gain an edge. You're always trying to get that call. And there were times when there was zero contact, and he would go to the free throw line. Now, I don't know, did he shoot more free throws or lay on the floor more? My man was sprawled out on the floor like every 5 minutes in the second half. Pacers had to get through all of that. So don't listen to anybody that says, well, look at who they're playing, because they've done it against the guys that should be out there, that they need out there, and then the guys that weren't out there. And that was a desperate team, and that was a desperate team in Cleveland that changed up their philosophy. I'm sorry. They were every bit of what Kenny Atkinson described the Pacers being late in that game the Cavaliers were in the first half. Clutching, grabbing, holding the entire time. And remember what we talked about? They were going to do that too. They were going to do that to Tyrese Haliburton. He was way too comfortable in game number 1. Did you notice? Every single time, and especially off of makes, it was Okoro or name anybody else that immediately would go to Haliburton and grab him on the inbound to keep the Pacers from pushing. And then you would give it off. People say, well, you know, Nembhard turned it over 8 times. Well, I mean, he had a significant amount of the basketball in his hands. I will say this. I think he had a career high in assists in the postseason. Listen, they turned it over too much, and I want them to fix that. But he did it also in other ways. He fought through that much like his teammates and his team fought through what was last night. That was an incredibly difficult game. And even beyond the spectacular finish, just to put yourself in that position when you played, for the most part, the way that you did against a team that was clearly desperate, and you got a head coach that's coach of the year that's whining for calls and getting calls and then whining for more calls. He did it after the game, too. And you had to battle against a lot of things. But again, as I told you at the outset, this is who this team is. And this is why I wanted to see it run back. Because to me, and I stated this last night, this is one of my favorite all-time teams around here. Yeah, there's no doubt. From the 1990s, whether you're talking about Reggie and both Davises and Mark Jackson and Rick Smits and that group, there is no question. But these guys will go down in history with me as one of my favorites because of how they are as a team. And, man, get along is so much a big part of it. And they certainly got that. And even larger what they have, maybe more so than anybody else, they have some fight through and want to that you do not always see. But we saw it last night, just like we saw it last week in Game 5 against the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll talk about that. I will individualize this with players because I can go across the board on the importance. You know, I'd mentioned obviously Haliburton with the make, the end of game, and the big balls reference because, yeah, that did take big. He dribbled out, and he sized up Ty Jerome because he knew he had his ass. He knew he had him. Why didn't he go to the basket? Why did he do this? Why didn't Rick call timeout? Because Rick had the matchup that he wanted right there. Why the hell would he call timeout? He had the matchup that he wanted. He had a slow ass against his guy. I thought, and again, I guess they didn't. Did anybody else besides me think he missed that purposely? I mean, again, that's a lot. But I thought he missed that purposely. You could not have missed that any better. You know how much better that was than a make? How often do we say that? That was the softest miss off the rim. And then you combine that with the relaxation of the Cavaliers on the free throw line. Again, this is all stuff that we rarely pay attention to because we think it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to be a make and nobody really cares on the free throw line. But, man, the Pacers had two of the most significant free throw line situations that we have ever seen around here. And they both happened within a span of, 3 minutes last night in the fourth quarter. Amazing. Yeah, Haliburton, Nesmith, Turner. Siakam picked it up late. Nembhard was having a big-time struggle with turnovers. He picked it up late. And some bench guys throw it in there, too. It's a team win. That's who this team is. JJ coming up at the bottom of the hour for that discussion. Kevin Boone of the morning show is going to slide in here coming up after 4. And Spero Dedes was on the call for TNT last night as well. Had a really good call about the taking of the heart. Now, I'm not going to suggest nothing is over by any stretch because they just didn't jack around and be the second-best team in the NBA over the course of a long regular season without having a little fight to them either. These guys have some pride. And you're going to see that on Friday. You're going to see that on Sunday. And I'm assuming that a couple of days is going to make an ankle and a thumb and maybe even a big toe, a Sergeant Hulka, feel better. We shall see. Game 3 is coming up on Friday. The Pacers up 2-0 in the best-of-7 Eastern Conference semifinals. 120-119 in one of the more thrilling games. And, in fact, we celebrate the 30-year anniversary of 8 points and 9 seconds. I think we all remember where we were on this day when that took place at Madison Square Garden. And this will go down in legend and in lore as well. We got that and more at 239-1070. Email address is jmv@1075thefan.com. Inside the AAA Membership Lounge. via YouTube Live. I got news for you coming up, too, as far as our Bronze Fun Time Campers RV. We just keep adding and adding and adding. I'm telling you, race weekend is going. I'm not just talking about race day, but race weekend is going to be outrageous. And believe me, we all need it. All right, quick break. We'll come back. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Good afternoon to everybody watching, too. And you can chime in at 239-1070. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Pay that man his money.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Second one is short, and it's rebounded by Haliburton. The Pacers have a timeout. Will they use it? No, they don't. Yes, they do have a timeout. 4 seconds to go. Haliburton for three! Three ball! Up top! Indiana by 1 and 1/10 seconds to go. Inbound. Merrill didn't get it off, and this rivals the Milwaukee finish.
You have got to be kidding me.
Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill, Pacers Radio here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Game 2, Pacers up 2-zip, best of 7. And we'll see. Hopefully they put an ultimate stranglehold, go up 3-zip coming up on Friday. Sunday, 3 and 4 here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And what should be one hell of an atmosphere. I am somewhat aroused right now just thinking about the potential atmosphere coming up this weekend. Like last night, especially for somebody like me that wanted this. I want this group, and I want them because that's what I expect. I know that sometimes they're going to go through crap, but I expect them, much like Shawshank Redemption, to come out clean on the other end. I have a lot of trust in them. This goes all the way back to last summer. Yeah, I love the way that broke last night, much like you did with a thrilling ending, 120-119. And to join us from Pacers TV, he's a friend of the show, Jeremiah Johnson. So I would love to have had a camera to wherever you're watching it. Maybe it's your living room, your basement, or whatever, because I would love to know, would you care to be 100% truthful with us and tell us what you said upon watching Haliburton bury that 3 as the game winner? Can you tell us?
Well, John, well, I don't know that the words necessarily, but the actions and the emotion were pretty clear, and they'll be clear in my mind for a long time. I'm with both of my sons in my basement, and my oldest, obviously 16, sophomore, he's pretty well in tune with the nuances of the game, and he was complaining at different times about the substitutions, and I was trying to remind him that, hey, playing a deep bench allows your guys to have fresh legs down the stretch. Then I complained a little bit about that foul call on Siakam because I was adamant that they did not need to foul in the final minute because they didn't need to foul in the Milwaukee game. And he said, I kind of was questioning the officiating, which I tend to do a little bit more when I don't have a microphone handy and I'm not trying to be the professional broadcaster. So he was saying, he clearly fouled him. And then when Tyrese Haliburton attacked the basket down 3, he threw a pillow against the wall. And he was mad because he said, they're down 3. They needed a 3. And I said, it's all right. They get the 2 free throws. You can steal the inbounds pass. And then when the second free throw is no good and you get the rebound, the 3 of us just kind of got out of the chair, gravitated closer to the TV. And then when that went in, it was pandemonium. So, yes, I do agree with you that it would have been fun to have a camera on that. And you don't know what's going to happen. The only thing similar, I guess, I would have is that I did have a camera on him back in the day when he saw Scooter Gennett hit his 4th home run. We were at the time watching a lot of Reds games, and I recorded it after the fact. So it was at the time where we were watching games the next morning, and I kind of knew what had happened, so I went ahead and recorded it, and that was a similar reaction. But it's why we love sports. It was amazing, and it's one that Pacers fans will always remember where they were when. Not just last week against the Bucks in Game 5, but Cap Series Game 2. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, Pacers TV. And by the way, the road teams won everything so far in both the East and the West in the semifinals. We'll gather that up coming up in a minute. How much have you felt that Tyrese Haliburton missed that second free throw purposely?
I saw Tony East ask him, and I've not had a chance to be around the team. I don't think he did, but it's not the craziest idea because you're not expecting, if you're Cleveland, that to happen with 11 or 12 seconds on the clock.
I think he totally missed that purpose. I think he totally missed that purposely. I do. And now it was, as it turned out, it was a perfect miss because the Cavaliers, JJ, felt that he was going to knock it down, and they were completely relaxed. But they were also relaxed when Nesmith swooped in and had that putback on the Siakam miss just a couple of seconds earlier. So, maybe that's just on them and how they approach, the free throw line situation. And we see that often You just kind of expect it to go in, and you relax a great deal there. But I thought that he missed that purposely.
If they thought he was going to miss, they should have called timeout and put in their rebounding lineup, right? And instead they had their lineup that they would have wanted to get fouled and go to the free throw line. The person to ask would be maybe Miles Turner, because if Tyrese was going to miss that on purpose, you would have thought he would have given him a little bit of a look and a glance, kind of like a quarterback to a receiver, just to give them a heads up of what might be happening. I still tend to think no, but I wouldn't rule it out, and it's an interesting question. And at some point, it'll be fun to see if we can get them to say whether that really happened or not. But either way, it all worked out.
Here's one of the reasons why I would suggest that is because it seemed like that Haliburton was all too familiar with the path he was taking in those final seconds to get to the three-point line and to have Ty Jerome sized up in the fashion in which he did. I know that it's outrageous to feel that maybe there was a bit of a plan involved there, but it looked like that there was a plan. That didn't look like some just half-assed, just pulling it out of your ass type of shot. It looked like that he was sized up and there was some thought going into that prior to the execution. Does that make sense?
It does, but with the amount of time left on the clock and the Pacers still having a timeout, think about what they could have done. They could have tried for the steal. If fouled, then they could have even seen the Cavs hit 2 free throws. They could have called timeout. We might have had another variation of the football play, the 4 wide receiver play, if the Pacers would have then had an opportunity, needed a 3-point shot. So I guess I still tend to not necessarily endorse your theory, but Tyrese Haliburton is always one step ahead, and so who knows? It wouldn't surprise me.
I'm telling you. Yeah, when's the last time you saw Miles jump in there like that? And I know that these were desperate circumstances. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. Like, this is where my mom plays a role. That's the first thing she said. He missed that on blanking purpose. Well, I thought she was dead. I thought, my God, she's going to stroke out. And she called me like 9,000. She was so pissed at Kenny Atkinson. I couldn't get her away from that. I mean, that's all she could do was recite his dialogue before the game about, the physicality of the Pacers. And she said, this is the first time they've ever been described like this with this team. And I said, I know you're right. I said, that's the Phil Jackson playbook, the handbook of how you approach a playoff series like this to try to get an edge. I tried to explain that to her.
I know, but you can't do it every game and every pregame. I mean, we've heard it now 3 times for 2 games, and at some point it doesn't really work.
Well, that's what they did. JJ, that's what they did at the start of the game. There was not a moment in which Haliburton, on the inbound after makes from Cleveland, didn't clutch and grab. They didn't clutch and grab and hold him every single time because we knew they were going to take him or try to get him out of his comfort zone like we saw in game 1. That's how they did it. They were physical and grabbed and clutched.
Exactly. That's why it didn't make sense to me. And I agree 100% with your mom. And I actually posted something about, Kenny Atkinson and Phil Jackson last night as well. So I agree. That one I will agree with, and I can't quite understand it. It is kind of comical right now that the Pacers are the team being accused of this overly physical play. And the other thing that, you look at that fourth quarter, I listened to a little bit of the Brian Windhorst podcast, the Hoop Collective, and he had pointed this out. 26 points in the paint in the fourth quarter for the Pacers. I just looked up 6 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter for the Pacers. The Pacers won this game because they had fresh legs in the fourth quarter. I think that's an important note to let the listeners be aware of. They only played 6 players. 3 of the starters played the entire fourth quarter, but I didn't see one of them look fatigued or tired, so they had that extra energy. And while they did give up over the course of the game a few too many second chance opportunities, that's something you're just going to have to live with a little bit. The fact that they had as many second chance points in the game and the 6 offensive rebounds and the crucial ones from, Haliburton on a missed free throw and then Aaron Nesmith on that missed free throw. That's why you're even in a position to have this opportunity to make this comeback. And so it's nice to have a little bit of a role reversal where instead of lamenting the other team's offensive rebounds, you did that and you succeeded in that area and you got that win.
It's Jeremiah Johnson joining us, JJ from Pacers TVs on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So am I not going to be able to talk you into the miss on purpose? You watch that over. He misses that on purpose. He does.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you. It makes for a better story.
It does. Yeah, I need that in the afternoon, a little bit more juice than what we got from last night. Pacers up 2-zip coming up Friday night. Cambridge Fieldhouse, game number 3 for you right here. You can hear on the Fan. All right, a couple of other things, too. I thought that was the perfect thumbnail sketch of the Pacers this season because you get mad at them and you go, what the hell is going on? And then in the end, they end up winning. And the thing that stands out to me about this group is what we have seen in the past week, both against Milwaukee in Game 5 and then in Game 2 last night in Cleveland. They never, ever give up. And you have to have a certain amount, a high level, if you will, of cohesion not to give up in that capacity. And that's why I always wanted to see this thing run back. That's why I think this group is special, and that's why I like them as much as I do, because they have so many qualities, JJ, of how we're brought up and taught the game of basketball by our elders, our coaches in this state. They have so many of those qualities.
They're unselfish. They make the extra pass. They cheer for each other. The cameras, I know the Pacers digital marketing team that have done such a great job. Some of the cameras that are just fixated on the bench and the joy that you see from them. And then the joy that you see the players play with. I agree with you. This has been such a fun team to watch and to support. And that's why last season was so important. I don't think when that playoff run started, anyone thought anything, it wasn't like it was the goal of winning a championship last season. But when you were able to get there and win a series, you thought, wow, that's really doing something. And then when you had that Game 7 experience at Madison Square Garden, maybe even before that, the Game 3 at Cambridge Fieldhouse, and to win that series, all of those experiences are sort of paying off right now. And they paid off in March and April when you needed to come from behind to win some of those games, when you needed your entire roster, when you needed a guy like Obi Toppin to hit those big shots against Minnesota. Every one of those wins mattered to help you get that 4 seed and to get in this position. And now it was a little bit of a narrative about this team, that they blew close games. You point to that Celtics series where they were not able to finish, and now they're the team that's making the plays, and it's their opponents that are having the trouble finishing games. So a lot of the experience they gained is really coming through and helping them right now, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. And so it's fun to, on a day off like this, hear what some other people are saying and noticing what we know, what we've seen for the last 2 years. People are starting to pay attention right now.
Yeah, it's almost like with what I've said about Miles, and I've had to convince everybody. Then he has, obviously, through his play now recently for the past, 8 years? When I've been on board with Miles and had to convince everybody, had to put up with all this jackassery. Don't you think everybody realizes that now? That's kind of how I feel about this whole group. I think everybody's starting to realize it.
Yeah, you won that battle. I would just say 10 years. I mean, you probably supported Miles from his rookie year, right? I mean, so
no, I remember the moment it was. Michael Grady was on here. Was making fun of him doing yoga in his off-season workout, and I said, you know what? Enough is enough on this. He's working his ass off. I mean, what the hell? And then Larry Bird had mentioned he was going to go down as one of the greatest of all time, and everybody felt he was going to be Kevin Durant Jr., and he wasn't. But what he is he is indispensable with this group as it is made up as a team. And obviously Tyrese Haliburton, JJ, has brought that out in him more than anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the pairing with Tyrese Haliburton and Miles Turner, it's been better than anyone could have imagined.
Yeah.
You did not think of him as the pick and roll player. You thought of him kind of strictly as pick and pop. And Tyrese has really opened that part of his game up. I remember when you were having some of those conversations, I can remember going down to Dallas for a week in August and doing some stories on his off-season routine. And yoga was a part of that. And I remember actually being on your show in one of the gyms near Miles's house, and you asked me how he was doing with his low post game, because that was the big area of emphasis, that he wanted to be a better low post player, the back to the basket kind of player. And that's not really the NBA right now. And so, again, he's focused on what he does well, and he's added some other things, and Tyrese Haliburton has really brought so much out of him.
Yeah.
He's irreplaceable. I mean, let's be perfectly honest with the way the Pacers play. They need Miles Turner. They need everyone. It's one of those rosters, again, you can't just remove a couple of players and expect them to be the same. And so that's why I've heard you talk about it a lot over the last couple of weeks, and bringing up with Chad Buchanan the continuity. that's why it was such a good decision, because they're not the same without everyone. Rick Carlisle likes to talk about the sum of the parts. When you didn't have Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nemhard in November and December, it just wasn't the same team. But when you do have everyone, I like their chances against anyone.
Yep. I mean, think about how much better a situation it is in closing here, JJ, for him than, having Haliburton and Carlisle over having Brogdon and Bjorkgren. Jesus. You imagine having to deal with those two clowns?
Well, yeah, there's no reason to necessarily go down that road.
They were terrible, but I mean, it is. I mean, we know it now. It's okay. It just didn't work here, and it wasn't going to work here. This is much better. Yes, and we've seen it.
The other thing that I will say, you give the front office and the staffs credit for trying the Sabonis Miles Turner pairing, but there are some challenges there. And while they gave it a good fight, they tried to make it work, playing 4 on one end, 5 on the other. This allowed Miles Turner to also play his natural position. So, the Brogdon trade opened up playing time immediately for Tyrese Haliburton, not like it wouldn't have happened eventually.
Yeah.
It got you Aaron Nesmith, but also the trade with Sabonis, as much as you love Domas, it gave Miles Turner the opportunity that he needed. So It's crazy how every little move that's been made, starting with that deal with Sacramento, has worked out. And again, I heard you spend a little time on your broadcast yesterday. I'll back up what you said. It's tough when voters have to pick 1 through 3 or 1 through 5. I don't even know how the voting works, but give Kevin Pritchard and that front office staff their flowers, because this has just been a phenomenal roster construction. 25 wins to 35 wins to 47 wins to 50, and now 2 wins away from a second straight conference finals. When you tear it down, it doesn't always happen. And it definitely most of the time doesn't happen this fast. And for them to do that, it's been remarkable, really.
Yeah, even if Chad Buchanan won't come to a pickup game of mine, it's all good. So, hey, buddy, I got to run here. James is giving me the evil eye. Well done. We will do it again over the course of how much more they play basketball. But it's been fun as hell so far. I appreciate you, bud.
All right, I'll see you on Friday, and I'll see 17,000.
I'll be down there. I'll be down there and half in the bag by halftime, too, so it'll be great. I can't wait to see you.
I'm sure there'll be some alumni Pacers signing autographs. I'll just walk around the concourse and chat with anybody that wants to chat.
You got it, buddy. Great to see you. Great to hear from you. We'll see you Friday.
All right, take care.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. That's JJ right there. Bowen and Spero Dedes all on the way. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. And no, my man, his Lance, local team, LD Smith Plumbing. Lance, big-time Pacers fan. We were talking about that a little bit earlier today. All your plumbing needs will be taken care of no matter what your situation is, and especially when you get sideswiped by plumbing issues, major plumbing issues, the best in the business, Lance and LD Smith Plumbing, 317-927-7186, 317-927-7186. Make sure you tell them that I sent you, because this is the place that you go, no matter what. Like for me, if you're replacing a kitchen sink and maybe some bathroom fixtures, all the way up to those major malfunctions in plumbing, nobody better. LD Smith Plumbing. That's Lance and his local team. And a shout out to Austin and Isaac today, just part of what is that fantastic team that have all your plumbing needs covered. 317-927-7186 online, ldsmithplumbing.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Give me my theme music.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, it was Tyrese Haliburton. Put it away. 2-zip best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 3 coming up on Friday night. Downtown Indy should be an absolute blast. Bowen and Spero Dedes. Spero had the call last night on TNT. And we'll talk to both coming up here in the next 2 hours. And your calls at 239-1070. Let's give a shout-out to Benedict Mathurin, who was massive off the bench with 19 for the Pacers. Big shots, big moments. But that's just what you have come to, I think, embrace with this team. The never-give-up team mentality. That's what you have. Quick break. We'll come back. Sorry, I went a little bit over with JJ. Got stuff to give away. I'll explain. We've got Kevin Bowen, Spero Dedes, and your reaction coming up. Do not go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Hello, everybody. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
Attention, whoever you are, this channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Ball comes in down near the corner. Nembhard got it to Haliburton. Haliburton retreats, feeds it back to Nembhard. Nembhard attacks, kicks it left edge. Siakam driving, he got to the goal. Left side, laid it in with a right hand. It's a 3-point game with 27.5 seconds to go.
I'm Mark Boyle right there. You heard it on Pacers Radio last night right here. Game 3 coming up on Friday. Game 4 on Sunday to zip. Best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. You got 2 coming up later on tonight. It's belonged to the success so far in the semifinals to the road teams. You watched Golden State last night. You watched the Pacers in Game 2. And so far in OT, NY on the road in Boston a couple of nights ago. And, clearly this has belonged to the road team so far. Denver, OKC. See if that holds true coming up later on tonight. I would agree. A lot of you said, hey, yesterday when you were talking about the NBA Executive of the Year and in the top 12, you did not see Kevin Pritchard's name. That is an absolute joke. It is 100% a joke because you saw a clown that got fired from Sacramento that was in the top 12. So, and that's those guys doing it. So it's stupid. And I guess it doesn't matter. All that matters is what you're putting together around here. But when you trade for Siakam, when you trade for Nesmith, when you trade for Haliburton, when you trade for Toppin, when you draft Shepard, Jackson, Walker, Matherin, Nembhard, I think you probably deserve a little bit more credit than not being in the top 12 and having some clown that got canned last week in the top 12 before you, or Rob Pelinka and his pretty boy rear end up there too. Yeah, it's real tough. Yeah, make those moves in L. That's really difficult to make those moves in L.A. And hell, those moves didn't work. So yeah, that's stupid. You're right. Spero Dedes had the TNT call. He's going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. And a lot of Pacer conversation. I'll go to you at 239-1070 in a moment from the morning show. He is part of it, along with Jeff Rickard and James Boyd. Kevin Bowens on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I felt last night, my mom called me and cussed and said that she felt that she actually is the one that got the ball rolling last night with me, that Tyrese Haliburton missed that free throw purposely. He said he did not. Do you believe it?
Well, I hate to go against Mrs. Vincent here, but yeah, I don't think he did. I mean, the thought maybe crossed my mind, but with 12 seconds to go. And
he 100% did, Kev. He 100% missed that. It was way too much going on there that people knew about.
You really think he did?
I do. I absolutely do.
I didn't. Well, I didn't think he did at the time.
It was the perfect miss. The perfect miss is what it was, but I thought he missed it purposely. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get that impression post game either from any of the comments. I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and.
Well, I'm not giving a crap about the comments. I just thought in the execution of that play, it looked like he completely missed that purposely. Yeah.
Well, if I were him, I would want to brag about that because missing a free throw in that situation certainly didn't look very good.
I would agree with you, but why wouldn't it, I guess, in that situation? Why wouldn't it look good?
Well, I think in the NBA, the whole advancing, I think the thought there is you make it. Cleveland can't inbound it to save their lives. Cleveland doesn't have a timeout. Considering what you did against Milwaukee, considering what you've done in the final 20, 30 seconds up to that point, I mean, it was a hope and a prayer Cleveland even gets the ball in bounds.
Yeah.
If they do, you obviously foul right away or very quickly thereafter. So let's play this out. 12 seconds becomes 9 seconds if you take a few to try and force a steal. Then you can advance it, and have 9 seconds to go down 1, 2, or 3, and obviously can draw something up out of the timeout. So it briefly crossed my mind, but I didn't think he did. And again, I just felt like that's something he would have wanted to have said post game, or somebody would have offered it up. I feel like.
Yeah, let me give credit where credit is due. Okay, and listen, I am probably 75% making all this up, Kev. So bear with me on this. But I would want to be known for missing it on purpose, because the strategy here would be, in a normal NBA game, there is so much half-assing or below going on in the free throw line because you think they're going to make it unless it's just some like Chris Dudley clone up there that is clanking it. You believe you're going to miss it. I mean, there's so much half-assing and relaxing going on. We saw that, seconds earlier with the Nesmith putback and the fashion in which he did. So if you go up there and you miss it, Like, I understand why he didn't call. I didn't understand why he didn't call the timeout, because Rick saw out there they got the matchup that they wanted. And Kev, if you watch that again, he acted like he knew what he was doing. The guys acted like they went to the ball like they knew what they were doing. He looked like he knew what he was doing when he got back out and saw the slowest dude on the court, Ty Jerome, try to size him up and guard him. I just thought that worked out perfectly all the way around, and really too perfect for at least some of it not to be planned. But that's just me.
Yeah, the whole timeout, it was probably about a month ago, because that month of March was so crazy. But I remember asking Rick when he's been on with us on the Tuesdays it seems like you don't like to call the timeout late. I'm trying to think of what the end of the game situation was where he didn't call it. I mean, there was even one of those games where he didn't call it late and it left Haliburton on the bench, if I'm not mistaken, in one of those games. Like, that's kind of Rick's thing. And, he's a very big believer in, I don't want to give the other team a chance to, set up their defense. I don't want them to sub defensive personnel in, et cetera, et cetera. And I think in that situation, when the rebound caroms to Haliburton, the guy you want with the ball, he's matched up with their worst defender in Jerome. He had just cooked Jerome, earlier in that final minute. Yeah, I mean, that was a ideal situation. I don't know what defensive stopper they necessarily would have subbed into the game, but they certainly would have taken Jerome out of the game had they had a timeout or had Rick taken a timeout there. So I think once you saw that, you knew the timeout wasn't coming. And I think once I saw Jerome kind of sag off a little bit, which I assume is because he just got beat off the dribble, that's when you knew the Haliburton step back was coming. My thought was just, are you going to wait till the buzzer? Are you going to give yourself an offensive rebound opportunity at it? How early are you going to go? But, yeah, the no timeout, I think we're used to that with Rick, especially when Haliburton gets it and he's looking across a dude who has been Kyle Kuzma-like through the first 2 games of the season.
Well, I mean, really, if you're thinking about it defensively, there was a scramble going on, but Jerome, I think Jared Allen was down there. So you could, at least at the very least, filter him down there to where you don't give up the game winner in the fashion in which you did. So I just thought, listen, and I realize this, if I were Haliburton, if I were the Pacers, I would want to say, yeah, that's exactly what we planned on doing. And maybe that wasn't the case, but there was a lot that happened there that looked like that these dudes knew exactly what they were doing at a time when normally you're so scrambled you don't. And you could tell with Cleveland, and I know that their main guys weren't out there, and these are all excuses, but they looked as discombobulated as they did trying to inbound the ball most of the time late in the fourth last night.
Well, I think that last part is why you don't miss it on purpose, because I don't think Cleveland could have inbounded it under any sort of pressure again. I mean, they still have 0 timeouts, so, if Haliburton makes it, the Pacers can set it up, and, again, that 5-second call is going to come pretty quickly. And I don't know. I think that would be something that Ty would want to give he would want to make sure we all knew that he didn't miss a clutch free throw like Siakam had missed 2 earlier in that final minute, and also give credit to Miles. I mean, obviously it's a tremendous play for Miles, whether you're missing on purpose or not. I mean, just what a bat out, and it went exactly where you would want it to go. So
I would have told everybody. I would have told everybody I missed it on purpose, maybe even if I didn't. Would you?
I know. You and me both. I'd be like, yeah, of course. I was trying to miss it there, and let's get in the direction of our 6'11" center. And because I think I want to say it was Neesmith on the other block. I don't know. Maybe it was Siakam on the other block. I'd have to go back and watch it. But yeah, I beyond chaotic, beyond wild, and I said it many times this morning. It is it's the Gen Z version of 8 points in 9 seconds.
Yeah, it was fun. Kevin Bowen, the morning show, is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I mentioned this earlier, too. This was you got the entire Pacers experience. You got what we get frustrated with, and then you get why we're so exuberant now and so excited about this team now at the tail end. We got the full this season spectrum, I thought, in Game 2 in Cleveland last night.
I mean, that first quarter, that might have been the worst quarter of the season. I mean, when you consider, just the amount of turnovers, that's so uncharacteristic. I want to say, and I thought Spero did a great job last night. I know you're having them on at 5. I thought Spero said coming back from half, it was their most turnovers in a half all season. which is just wild to think about, especially with Cleveland missing, I would say, some key defensive personnel in that game. So, yeah, to have that quarter, I mean, I thought Matherin in the third, it probably won't get talked about enough, just how important it was to inject life, keep you afloat. I thought the final play of the third quarter, just like game one, was a big play that is bigger than just a box score three-pointer by Neesmith. That was the Matherin pass right to Haliburton in stride, who whipped it in the corner to Neesmith. Just like Miles in game one, I thought those threes were absolutely huge plays. I felt like when we got back, in the fourth quarter there, I don't know, I just felt like the whole atmosphere was sitting in the front seat watching your kid learn how to drive. Just like, let's somehow get to our destination. Let's somehow get to triple zeros on the scoreboard. And remember, that start to the fourth quarter, when Rick went back to a lot of starters with Matherin, they got on another run, which sent Mitchell into the game earlier than I think Kenny Atkinson wanted to put him back in. And I just thought Mitchell, I know he had a moment or two, certainly in the fourth, but he also he stepped out of bounds at one point. He commits a turnover. I just think he was mentally and physically drained, understandably, at that point. So I just thought there was some other huge keys, end the third with that play, again, to start the fourth quarter like you did. While the score still was a little bit of a margin, I felt like you quickly sent a message of, like, this game's a lot closer than the scoreboard might indicate.
Yeah, and while I'm sure that he was drained, I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, in his 48-point outburst, he did go to the free throw line, which is not a draining experience, to shoot 21 of them. And he was incredibly over-dramatic, especially late. He was sprawled out more on the floor than he was at the free throw line late in the fourth quarter. I mean, I thought, to me, there was a lot of drama working there, too.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly, I think, was milking it. I think he, plays into the, hey, if I can, Jokic it up a little bit here and try to create an extra, 10, 20 seconds of rest time, or Jokic kind of does the reverse when Denver's trying to milk games. Yeah, I think that was at play there. And really, I don't even remember him being a factor on any of the inbounds late. Like, it seemed like he struggled to make himself available. It was like, oh, let's try to get into Sam Merrill, or let's try to get into Ty Jerome. And I mean, I know hindsight's 2020. Maybe they should have put, Porter made a couple plays early on. I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was just, I thought one of the sneakier Neesmith plays late, not the putback dunk, that speaks for itself, not the turnover on Mitchell, that speaks for itself. But when he forced the timeout, which was their final timeout, and guarding Merrill, I thought that was, and again, it won't show up on the box score, but think about everything that transpired after that. They weren't able to have a timeout when they inbounded it and turned it over to Jerome. They weren't able to have a time. If they wanted to, I don't think it would have gotten overturned, but they could have challenged on the Haliburton foul, or on the Mitchell foul, I guess it was. They could have done that, and obviously they could have advanced it after Tyrese made the shot. And they don't have a timeout at all to just even give them, like, sanity at that point. And I thought Neesmith forcing that last timeout was just such a great play.
So Kevin Bowen, I completely agree. It's interesting because we don't know what the dynamic is in Cleveland, nor the conversation that's going on. But I just kind of gather this nationally. You get some national folks that kind of look at Darius Garland and wonder why, for example, last night. And I'll give you a great point. I had somebody on from Cleveland, Tom Withers, that was very confident that Garland was going to give it a go, and he didn't end up going in game number 2. And I know it's a toe situation, and I'm sure it's very painful, and he just gets robbed of quickness and all that. But do you think that there's a little bit of backbiting going on in Cleveland right now about the fact that a guy, like Garland, one of their main guys, I know 2 other guys didn't go either, but Garland seemed to be, before game time, a little bit different, didn't give it a go. Is that something you may think plays a role going into Friday night here at Gainbridge Fieldhouse?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure fans are frustrated. I mean, fans, I think, in any market get frustrated over injuries. The fact that he's been questionable, I think, for all 4 of the games he's missed, it's like, okay, how much do you believe? How much is gamesmanship? I think for anyone that probably hasn't had a toe injury, they act like the toe injury isn't that severe. I think anybody that's probably dealt with it would argue otherwise. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like we feel it here in our market. I mean, imagine the Anthony Richardson debate over his health situation. I mean, Garland played 75, 76 games in the regular season. I'm not, I have no idea if I should be questioning his, willingness to be out there or not. I'll be curious who out of the three plays. I mean, a dislocated thumb on the shooting hand for DeAndre Hunter doesn't seem to be too promising. And then Evan Mobley, you listen to people that were in the arena last night, they're acting like he was limping, rather significantly with that ankle. So, health situations, and we'll see the Haliburton update. How much was that just adrenaline getting him through last night? Because I felt like, I don't know if the numbers would back it up, and they'd obviously be some super crazy, nerdy analytical numbers that I don't know. But that might have been the game that Nembhard handled the ball the most.
Yeah.
Versus Haliburton.
Yeah.
Was that just strictly denial by Max Strus and company, or was that a little bit of the injury situation playing into that? That would be something I'd like to know.
With Haliburton, you think, with the wrist? Is that what
how much was?
No, I thought from the outset you could, we talked about this, Kev, over the course of yesterday, that you knew that Cleveland was going to try. He was way too comfortable in game number one. And you knew that they were going to try somehow, some way. I'll give you a great example. What Kenny Atkinson has argued about now twice and whined about is exactly what his team did most of the game, and certainly at the beginning of the game. They clutched and grabbed, and off the make and off the inbound. You saw whomever it was, a Coro often run right over to Haliburton and start grabbing him. They would grab and clutch. They were physical. That's exactly what Kenny Atkinson is arguing the Pacers do too much of, and he wants more of a favorable whistle than even he got last night. But that's what he is looking for in this. That's what Cleveland did to disrupt the Pacers. And honestly, at the beginning of the game, you saw in the first quarter it did.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was the least – and the Haliburton's numbers at the end of the night, I felt like ended up a little bit better than I – felt him during the 48 minutes, if that makes sense. Like, I felt like certainly Siakam was probably the least you've seen him impact in quite a while. And I don't know, I hadn't felt Haliburton that much. And this goes back to the Nembhard conversation that we just had. I mean, hell, if you look at Nembhard's numbers, 13 assists and 8 turnovers? I mean, that's absurd on both ends. And, I don't even know if he had those numbers when, Haliburton was out last year in the Eastern Conference Finals for those couple of games. So, it seems like Cleveland is kind of going there with that approach of, and that's probably what, if you can do it, that's probably what I would try to do. It's, can you make some others create? I mean, you bring this up a whole lot. I mean, Haliburton as a creator does as much for you as a facilitator as he does as a scorer, and probably actually even more as a facilitator. Nembhard self-creation, Neesmith self-creation, Turner self-creation. That's not those guys' games. They are great in a lot of other areas, but that's not their game. Siakam, yeah, but still, Siakam needs it in the post. So, I guess that'll be something to keep an eye on in Game 3 of, do they try to do that? Again, lineup-wise, who gets back for them? And then again, is Haliburton limited in any way with the wrist?
So Kevin Bowen's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Yeah, I thought last night, especially without Mobley, that Siakam would feast. He had 12 points, and a couple of those came late. There wasn't a great deal of juice around his level of play last night. And I thought that it wasn't necessarily what Cleveland was doing. How would you explain it?
Yeah, it's definitely a head-scratching element. I mean, if that game had not, if Haliburton misses that shot, we're probably talking about that, Siakam specifically, a whole lot more. Because, yes, without Mobley, I just, I probably would have hammered some Siakam player props, and thinking, oh, yeah, this will be, a 9 of 14 night for him. He'll have 22, and the Pacers get a great night out of him. So I was pretty disappointed, I think, and again, just kind of his lack of consistent production or any production. And those 2 missed free throws late, I mean, whatever. We can maybe debate Haliburton trying to miss it.
Well, that foul. Certainly. I mean, that foul that clearly they didn't want late in the game either. Well, I thought that he was kind of floating around out there with not a great deal of direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, yes, I would agree with you there. He obviously missed the 2 free throws, or Neesmith saves his ass. I would say, he's earned benefit of the doubt of, like, you again, I don't think we expect that. But, maybe you go back to the end of the Milwaukee series and, just a little bit quieter than he was early in the playoffs. Maybe the extra day off will help him. I mean, certainly late in the year, we had that debate of does he need a night off, and he got, a night or two off, I want to say, late in the season, which I think did help him. But, certainly if this, I don't know. Maybe you can beat Cleveland now that you're up 2-0 without All-Star Siakam, but if you're going to, get all the way to the finals, you need him to be that. So it is probably a storyline that's definitely worth paying some attention to the rest of the series, and then certainly if you advance, it becomes a big topic.
Have you imagined how fun it's going to be both Friday and Sunday? And especially Sunday if you went on Friday, but we'll start with Friday because that's going to be quicker here. The fun that is going to be downtown for that. I mean, these are the times that we around here as sports fans love the most. I cannot wait.
You dream of it. I mean, honestly, it's like some of my favorite memories are being downtown and around. I mean, you are around it literally like with shows and whether, I'm just there from a credential standpoint or fortunate to go to an event, that's exactly why I think you and I get into the business of like those atmospheres, those environments. It just brings like elation from the whole community like no other. I feel like I just drive home every day and I'm, yeah, wow, there's my neighbor decked out in Pacer gear. I had no idea he owned, some 1987 Pacer shirt, and there he is mowing the lawn with it, and that Pacer hat. And this playoff schedule, John, and obviously, it came out yesterday that, we would get, Pacers and Racers the night of the 500. I mean, think back to the Milwaukee round. We got Friday and Sunday. Right, I think we never got weekend home playoff games last round. We're going to get Friday and Sunday, here coming up this weekend. If there is a game 6, that would be a Thursday night. Hell, Thursdays almost seem like a weekend to me at some points. And then again, Eastern Conference Finals wise, you would have, the night of the 500 be a home game. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I feel it more when the Colts haven't had a home playoff game in 10 years. Like,
yeah.
I think when you
that's what I battled against with wanting this team to run it back. I had to battle against all the Colts fans saying, well, look how much they've run it back, and it sucked. You know what I mean? That's what I've had to put up with. And I love getting the gratification of this team doing what it's doing now because I think it justifies why I felt that way going all the way back to the summer because the whole run it back term around here has become so dirty because of the football team.
Right. And, I'm glad that you aren't, team always run it back or team never run it back. I did think you can isolate each of the franchises and realize, boy, the arrow's pointing up slightly differently for the Pacers' young star than it is for the Colts' young, highly invested, prayerful star at this point. So, I mean that in all seriousness. I guess it comes out as probably a dig at the Colts, but it's really not. It's just reality of, when we're in a market that primarily has their 2 professional sports teams. We don't have the Major League Baseball. We don't have the NHL. I mean, obviously the Fever pre-Caitlin Clark is much different. I mean, you are very reliant on those memories from the Colts and Pacers. And when you haven't gotten the home playoff game from the NFL team and really even that many other moments lately, and you look to the Pacers, and to be fair to the other side of it, it's not like the Pacers were producing a whole lot until 2 years ago. But it's amazing how quickly it can turn, and this I don't know if a poll would serve this because the NFL still is king, but I think in this market,
it's basketball. Kev, you're going the right direction here. It's basketball.
I think people starve for the Pacers title more than they starve for another Colts title.
It's
basketball. I think they want that Pacers parade. Yeah, I think there still is in 49 states. It's just basketball, but this is Indiana. Like again, NFL is king, and the numbers of the NFL back that up. But in our area, in our state, if you literally just did a poll, would you rather see the Colts win a Super Bowl or the Pacers win a title? I think the Pacers would win that vote. And I think you're seeing that right now, just in all the interest and, our numbers this morning. I'm sure yours right now and just the interest.
Damn straight better be, by God. Let me tell you that.
It is it's an awesome time. And last night, for those people that don't remember 8 points in 9 seconds or were too young or the YouTube video's too grainy, you got it.
Hey, Kev, this is a horrible analogy, and I hope your mom's not mad at me here, but you come sliding out of the birth canal, and you're ready. I know you love golf and other things right now, but it's about basketball around here. That's what happens, man. It's about basketball. Don't ever tell your mom I gave that analogy here, okay?
No, I'm sadly not in my head at that.
My mom dropped so many F-bombs to me on the phone last night. I thought, am I talking to a trucker? Who is this? What the hell?
Well, nothing says Happy Mother's Day like that lovely description here from John.
I thought you didn't even know who Kenny Atkinson was before that pregame presser. And, I mean, she was just dropping F-bombs all over this dude.
I love it. God bless your mother.
Man, all right, buddy. Tomorrow morning, you, James, Jeff, morning show. That's Kevin Bowen right there. My brother, maybe one of these other times we'll work something in other than basketball. You and I at Chatham for Live coming up, too. I've got some ideas. I'll spread the wealth to you at some point, okay?
I love it. All
right, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, John. See you.
It's Kevin Bowen on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. James says, I need to break. We've got Spero Dedes, TNT call from last night. He was right there among the madness in Cleveland for game number 2. Joins us 5 o'clock hour. Stuff to give away. You and me on the other side. If you've been waiting on hold at 239-1070, coming at you. That's on the other side. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
He looks like Rascal Flatts guy.
Got a cool soul patch.
He does, and a buttery smooth voice.
Oh, yeah.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It's 100-92. Turner bouncing down the left side of the lane. He laid it up too hard, but Matherin grabbed it off the rim and slammed it with two hands.
Great job of Matherin there, and inching closer and closer here.
It's a 6-point game. 7:44 remaining.
Never thought they were going to get over the hump, did we? Boyle and Gill right there. Pacers Radio, you heard it here. Game 3 coming at you on Friday. Cambridge Fieldhouse. Pacers up 2-zip. Best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. You know, I mentioned that Kenny Atkinson will drive you nuts, and everybody's talked about him whining. He whined before the game, then whined after the game. You know, his guy went to the free throw line 21 times, and some of those were ghost calls. Some of them were. And I had said that's right out of the Phil Jackson playbook. If you guys remember, Phil Jackson did the same thing. So, Chris Finch, after game number 1, Timberwolves head coach, quote, talking about the Warriors defensively. They do a lot of fouling, holding, shoving, pushing, and tackling Rudy. By the way, who the hell cares what happens to Gobert anyway? Finch said the Wolves have submitted clips to the league office to review the officiating and what was missed. So you tell me this is not the Phil Jackson Universal Playoff Handbook. That's exactly what it is. So really, it's whining, but it is calculated whining. It's calculated complaining. It's calculated pissing and calculated moaning. Everybody does it because you're always trying to get that edge. I want to submit some clips. Where do you think those clips go? Like right to the round file, the trash can. That's Chris Finch earlier today. Basically, it's almost like he took the dialogue from Kenny Atkinson and said, you know what, I like that so much, I think I'm going to say that today. Classic. Absolutely classic. Hey, I did want to ask you this. Kevin and I had the discussion. Kevin believes that it wasn't missed on purpose. JJ believes it wasn't missed on purpose. That's okay. But let's just say, for example, when asked, if you were Tyrese Haliburton, would you have said you missed it purposely? And I will also even go further. Did that miss and then what took place afterwards, they got perfect situations out of all of it. If I were Rick Carlisle, I would say, yeah, you know what? That's exactly how I planned it. It was perfect. It was better than any call. It was better than any execution that you could have had after a timeout. It was even better than the circus that was Cleveland trying to inbound the ball late in that game. You could not have asked for a better situation. So I'm just curious. A, do you think it was missed on purpose? And believe me, the one thing that would stand out to me is if you watch Haliburton, he looked like it was short. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't short purposely. But it looked like he went at it like he knew that it was short. But it was almost like that was a called play. And then you got the perfect matchup with a guy slower than me trying to check you, who was 1 of 14 of the floor. Can you imagine how demolished Ty Jerome was? He goes 1 of 14 from the floor. Seriously, he couldn't throw it out the car window offensively. And then he gets matched up and gets that shot for the win right in his eyeball. That dude may never recover. No, it's way too perfect not to be planned. If you're a Haliburton, would you suggest? Would you tell it? I would say, yeah, that's exactly how I planned it. We all would, wouldn't we? 239-1070. I owe some people some calls. Spero Dedes of TNT had the call last night, top of the hour. BT do. Man, it's been a long time since BT has called this show. Normally a staple on the JMV Takeover every Saturday night. What do I owe this incredible honor from the East Side, BT?
What is up, Big Nuts?
Bobby. That's Bobby with that's Mark Patrick's show, MPOS back in the day. Bobby Big Nuts right there, a reference from you. Well done.
When Haliburton was running back down the court, that phrase came to my mind. First thing I thought of.
Exactly. Was Sam Cassell the first one to act like that he had to carry his nuts around after making a big shot back in the 90s? I think he was, wasn't he?
It sounds, I think it was. But you hit on something that made me stop and think that you said this is becoming one of your favorite teams.
It is.
Of all time. And I stopped and thought about it, and I went, I'll be damned, he's right. So I'm with you on that. And if I was Haliburton, I would go to my grave swearing to God I missed it on purpose.
I would too.
No way anybody can prove it didn't.
I know. It looked all too perfect. I mean, there was so much execution in that chaotic mess on that final play. Would you not agree? I mean, there was more execution there than there was. You go back to the first quarter, it was better executed in that chaotic mess than anything was in the first quarter. And hell, that was planned. They were going off a game plan right there. So I would agree with you on that. I would have said absolutely. I missed it purposely.
You had JJ on earlier, him and Chris and Quinn and the whole crew. They deserve some props because that TNT crew is god.
I'm getting ready to have Spero on here at the top of the hour. That's not a way to intro that.
Fuck.
So, but what you're going to say, the dialogue and the description is okay, but the technical aspect of it, because I will say this, like when the shot goes through, is it on your TV as well? When the shot goes through the net, it's like louder than Spero and Greg Anthony's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Seriously, I think like Laney's cat jumps every time somebody hits a jumper that's pure because the net makes such a loud sound the cat just like craps all over the place.
That's awesome. And one last thing.
Yeah.
Can these players stop acting like soccer players every time they get touched and laying on the ground and blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
I was like, Mitchell last night, I kept yelling for him to get up, you know.
My man was sprawled out all over the floor in the fourth quarter.
God. There was a
every
sniper
time. There
was.
And listen, I'm not going to argue, BT, that he wasn't tired. I guarantee he was tired. But there was so much drama involved in there. Yeah, I don't know if you heard this or not. The TMD broadcast after the games were over, I think this was even after the second game, Ernie Johnson said, remember when we used to go by TNT, we know drama? That's what I thought about. That used to be their moniker, right? Their motto. That's what I thought about with Mitchell late in the fourth. He knows drama because he was incredibly over-dramatic about everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
he didn't seem so damn tired when he had an and one situation and he was dancing around and stuff.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
But can you play some Hall & Oates so I feel normal calling in?
Yeah, we can. You got anything in mind? Like Did It in a Minute, Adult Education, Out of Touch? What are you thinking about there, PT?
I'm thinking Did It in a Minute.
Did It in a Minute.
Took him a minute.
It's a story of my life. That's a story of my life right there, BT. Thank you very much. All right, bud.
All right, man.
Good to hear from you. BT, normally on Saturday night, is here. No, not here, upstairs on B105.7. We got time for Cameron here, James? What we got? James looked at me funny. We don't have time?
Make it quick if you do go to him.
Hey, Cam, we got our marching orders right there from James. You may have to make this one quick. Hello.
All right, hey John. I had a few things, but I'll just make it quick and do one thing.
No, you can go ahead. You go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, sending in the plays to the league. You know what that is useful like? The 2-minute report.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most useful thing I've ever seen. And I know I was listening when you had JJ and KB on, and I was going to say exactly the things that they were saying and kind of what you were saying. It's comical that the Pacers are finally the ones that are kind of being I saw somebody on Twitter last night saying we were playing like the Detroit Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Which is just so comical.
You know what, though? I think what do they call that now, Cameron, a flex? I would think if I were the Pacers, I would take that as a flex. I'd say, hell yeah, we are. We're badasses because, like, last week they were described as soft and finesse.
Yeah, and I mean, me personally, being a diehard Pacers fan, I've kind of been waiting ever since we've really, I wasn't old enough to really watch the Reggie teams like thoroughly, but the last bad boy team I remember was David West, Lance Stevenson, kind of those guys. So I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. And another thing, I was very confused. You could tell in the first half yesterday that Atkinson obviously was like, get up in their stuff, push them around a little bit, see what's going to happen. And nothing was called, because the games change. And then you could definitely tell in the second half when the Pacers started to, get up, take it a little bit, because I was very confused to why our offense looked, like they had never been in that situation before. Because with Milwaukee and other teams, they did the same thing.
Right. Well, and it is classic playoff coachery right here. He was complaining about things that were going on while executing a plan, doing the same things he was complaining about before the game. That's exactly what took place. That's what you saw in Game 2.
Absolutely. And last thing I'll get off here, John, I just want to apologize to all of NBA Twitter because, we're not supposed to win these games that if players are hurt. So that's on us. The ball just went in. We apologize. It's not really fair if we win these games when players are hurt. So, we got lucky a little bit. So I apologize to the NBA Twitter nerds.
Well done, Cameron. I appreciate you. You always got to apologize to the nerds, man. You call again soon. 16.5. 6.5 rebounds, 56% from distance. Whose stats during the postseason am I describing right here? Quick break. We'll come back with that and a lot more with you. Spero, Dedes, TNT, top of the hour. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Forget it. No way. We're on a mission from God.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, Rob Thomas, number 9 at 239-1070. August 22nd, Everwise Amphitheater downtown. Go get him, everybody. Is this Rob Thomas right here? Number 9 at 239-1070 because we love you. 16-3, 6.5, 56% from distance, and just both ends of complete and utter badassery in the postseason. Who am I talking about? With the stats, with the description, who did I just define for the Pacers in this postseason? Aaron Nesmith. That, again, this is just wordplay because nothing is going to be handed out, but that is your Pacers MVP so far this postseason. Aaron Nesmith. And everybody always talking about, well, you got to have a wing and a 3-and-D, and you got to have that. There's your dude. And I'm not just talking about the stats, but the both ends of the floor badassery we have seen out of him. The go get it. The taking it for the team. I'm not trying to slide. This is not sliding anybody. I mean, obviously you got Haliburton, big shots, and, everybody has, for the most part, played at an incredibly high level. But to me, Nesmith and his production has been different. Would you agree? The other thing, too, and a shout-out to Tyrese Haliburton for the big balls reference after that make, because that, you got to pull up in a dump truck with those bad boys in there. That is impressive. For those of you, my man Brian Fisk being one, that say, hey, what about Major League? Let's be careful where we go here, because that was Major League 2, and nobody out there watching that crap. If you say Major League, it's Major League, the original, and that is it. Yeah, I don't care what they carried in a wheelbarrow or a dump truck as far, and I know that's where that reference, I would give Sam Cassell, I think, the credit for it before anybody else, because Major League 2, as they say in Southern Indiana, I ain't watching. The original, I'm watching. But it is appropriate. Seriously, whenever one of these days you got to put that up, you think, on the side of the JW Marriott one of these days with Haliburton carrying a sack after last night. Especially after he missed that second free throw purposely and everything worked out like it was planned. Everything worked out, executed better than an actual play call out of a timeout. When he says he didn't miss it purposely, and I'm here to tell you he absolutely did. You could not have it end more perfectly, more perfect of a situation with a guy trying to check him slower than James Adams. It's too perfect not to have been planned. Spero Dedes coming up on the other side. The TNT broadcast from last night. We got that and you and more to give away, including qualifying tickets. Do not go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Ride with JMV.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
They do have a timeout. Carlisle's going to let him play. Haliburton steps back and hits. Tyrese Haliburton trying to take Cleveland's heart. And it is over. The Indiana Pacers in a Game 2 stunner.
Unbelievable.
TNT from last night, Greg Anthony, and our next guest on play-by-play with that call that you heard right there from TNT, Spero, Dedes on the Pacers Game 2 win in Cleveland. 2-zip best of 7 Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 3 coming up on Friday night, and Spero joins us now. So where does that rank, that ending rank in your career of calling play-by-play NBA games?
That's got to be right up there. It was, I just think, considering the stakes, considering the environment, it's up there. You know, I had the fortune of working for the Lakers for 6 years and got to call 2 NBA finals, Lakers Celtics, and one other one, Lakers Orlando. Great memories there, but we never had one in the playoffs on a buzzer beater, or almost a buzzer beater like last night. So I think it's got to be top 3 for sure, John. It was unbelievable.
Spero, I have maintained this, and Tyrese Haliburton said he didn't miss it purposely. But my goodness, did things work out? That was the most well-executed play of the night. It could not have worked out any better had you called the timeout and executed purposely than the way that it did off of that miss. Because if you watch everybody on the line, they all looked like they knew where it was going. They all looked like they knew he was going to miss it. And then he directly went to the three-point line. They got the matchup clearly that you wanted. It was way too perfect not to be planned. Can we put it that way?
Yeah. I think you may be onto something. And Tyrese Haliburton, to do what he did last week in the clincher against Milwaukee was almost, basically once in a lifetime. And now to have done it twice in a week, I think, instantly puts him into a special class, in the history of this franchise. And I think everyone can agree he's a special player. Who knows how far he can take this franchise in the coming years. But this is, I don't want to say breakout because he's been great. He's already, been at the top of his class, and people speak about him like he's one of the best at his position, and rightfully so. But I think, maybe the ceiling is even higher than we thought. And, there are great players, John, in this league, but there's a separation when you talk about intangibles, when you talk about that inner fight and that inner spirit that I think few guys in this league have. And I would put him in that class. Just love everything about him, the way he fights. He's a guy who galvanizes his team, and he has taken this franchise to a different level. And I think we're all waiting to see how far they can go. I explain this all the time. It is different for him, and especially when all that overrated dialogue from The Athletic happened. I said, everybody around here, remember what he does. Remember his responsibility. He's responsible not only to get his own, but this is a team that they can, but not on the reg, that can get their own. He's responsible getting everybody else going. That's elite level. And this is winning by a team concept, which you constantly see with this group. And it's going to be different than if you're described as an elite level, like a Donovan Mitchell, who's going to go get you 48 last night. But he's not going to distribute it and be responsible for everybody else in the capacity in which Tyrese Haliburton is. And to me, that makes it different. Yeah, and we asked Rick Carlisle, who I've always said is one of the underrated coaches, which sounds crazy because the guy's won a title. But whenever the conversation comes up about the best coaches, for some reason his name doesn't come up nearly enough. So we asked Rick pregame last night just about Tyrese and the week that he's had. And he said, one of the reasons why we wanted to get him was, first of all, he's got an atypical personality for a star. He's not a guy who, obviously he's confident, but he doesn't carry himself as the diva, those types of players. The other thing he said was he empowers his teammates, and he has this really unique ability to get his teammates to run. He has such a unique ability to to galvanize that fast break, which has become such a big part of who they are. And he said these were the reasons why we were willing to give up a Sabonis to go get him. Because if you think back, I mean, now obviously it's worked out for the team, and the hindsight is always 20/20. But Sabonis at the time was a burgeoning star, and that was not an easy decision. But obviously it's something that's worked out. And I just think he's hardened, John. I think everything he's been through, the hamstring last year, Team USA experience over the summer wasn't great. Some of that stuff carried over into the start of this season. So I think the fact that he's also seasoned, he's hardened, he's tough, he's just he checks all the boxes right now. He really does.
Spero Dedes of TNT, he's the play-by-play voice. You heard him last night with that game-winning call from Haliburton and more. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I mentioned this before you came on. If you were handing out an MVP so far in the postseason for the Pacers, I'd be hard-pressed not to give that award to Aaron Nesmith because he has been spectacular in all facets, and I'll give this quality a facet of its own, badassery on both ends. He's been exactly what has been needed from this team in the moments in which they've been needed, and certainly we saw that again last night at the close.
Yeah, and another move that Kevin Pritchard made. I mean, they're just so deep with these young, guard/wing players, and as we touched on the broadcast again last night with GA, who, it just always has such a unique perspective. There's such a value now on wing players, John, who can both defend and who can shoot. So everyone sees how good he is, Nesmith, with his defense. But, this year, top 10 also in the league as a three-point shooter. So his value, I mean, you think about his first 2 years with Boston. They took him in a high first-round pick, was kind of a fringe guy, never was really able to crack the rotation. To see how far he's come in just 2.5, 3 years with this team, I think is a testament, to him. He's a gym rat. He's got a great work ethic, but also I think the developmental culture that Rick and Kevin have built with this franchise. And to go from a team that had a couple of lean years, maybe more than a couple, to where they are now, man, it's just really, really impressive what they're building with this group. Yeah,
it's funny, too, and I want to get your opinion of it because you called it last night. Before the game last night, the coach of the year, Kenny Atkinson, complained about the clutching and grabbing and physicality over physical group that the Pacers, he felt they were in that game number one. Then he complained about it again afterwards. However, did we not see his team do basically the same thing at the beginning, especially of the game, which is, I thought, the reason why the Pacers were out of it in that first quarter is because even off the make, you saw somebody run over and immediately grab around the waist or grab Haliburton to keep him from getting the ball, and then Nembhard subsequently would get it and have to bring it down the floor. I thought it was the physicality that he complained about that he utilized more often than not in game number two.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't kill Kenny too much because I've been such a big fan of his for a long time. I think he's a great coach. Was really happy to see him get his due with the Coach of the Year. I just think a lot of times with that stuff, John, it's just gamesmanship from the coaches. I mean, I think back to growing up in the 80s and, watching Phil Jackson work the refs through the media and Pat Riley, during these 7-game series, trying to get any kind of upper hand or any modicum of advantage with the officials going into the next game. I think that's all that is.
Yeah.
I think Kenny's got other things he's got to worry about because right now with the injuries to his three key guys, I mean, I think Cleveland at full strength would have their hands full with the Pacers. Now, not knowing the status of those three guys, especially Evan Mobley, who, I mean, is just such a massive difference maker, they're really behind the eight ball. I think this extra day of rest is huge for the Cavs and will go a long way in determining, whether they're able to break through in the series.
It's funny you mentioned it, too, because as you brought up, I brought up Phil Jackson and the playbook, as you just kind of described, that we know growing up and enjoying NBA basketball. Chris Finch just utilized that earlier today after game number one with the Warriors, basically saying the same thing, very similar dialogue. So it happens every year with most coaches this time of year.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, I just get a chuckle out of it. It's just the white noise in the background and it is what it is.
That's Spero Dedes of TNT's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I had a guy on from Cleveland yesterday that covers the Cavaliers, and he felt optimistic about Darius Garland giving it a go, more so than Hunter, more so than Mobley, and as we found out, all three didn't go. Were you surprised that all three were set down for that game because of their variety of injuries? And certainly, has it surprised you that Garland has yet to give it a go through 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think yes is the short answer, but injuries are so tricky, John. I mean, you never know what these guys are feeling. I think what we've gathered with Garland is that if this was a regular season situation, he would be out for multiple weeks, and it's basically come to that now. Having missed now the last 3 or 4 games, it's a situation with him where the starts and stops that happen hundreds of times during the course of the game is what is giving him the most discomfort. So until he feels the pain threshold is at a point that he can play and play effectively, I think that's what it is. With Mobley, we heard that the next day he was barely able to put any weight on that ankle. So that's obviously a concern. The guy I thought would play would be Hunter. We've all had, or most of us have had dislocated or finger injuries. They're quite painful. Everyone knows that. But, with the proper tape job, with the proper wrap, sometimes we've seen guys give it a go. But obviously the fact that it's on his right hand, his shooting hand, clearly is an issue. So, again, extra day of rest, I think, can only help their situation. But, man, they got to get those guys, at least one of them, if not more, back into this. Because going to Indy, we were there for the playoffs last year. I mean, such an incredible atmosphere. Really, they're in as tough a spot now as I think anyone could have predicted 2 games in.
How was that in Cleveland? Because it sounded hellaciously loud in those first 2. Was that right up there with what you have with some of the best crowds you've covered and done play-by-play for in the past during these games?
It's the loudest arena I've ever been in. I don't know if they were pumping crowd noise in extra, but there were times I had to look at Greg and look at him when he was speaking because I couldn't hear him at times. That's how loud it was. We had audio issues game 1. Our poor audio engineer mixer, who was as elite as it gets, we had some issues with all that crowd and the PA coming through the microphones. So it was chaos. It was incredible in terms of the atmosphere from a fan standpoint. And I have a feeling Indiana is going to be just as loud.
Is that what that was about too? Because I kind of wondered. I'd mentioned sometimes when the ball went clean through the net, if it was pure, that sound would be louder than you and Greg and your voices. Was that what they were trying to even balance things out because of the crowd noise and everything else in that arena?
It's exactly the case. When there's all that crazy ambient background that's like artificial noise from the PA in arena, it just creates havoc for the audio engineers. And so, I think we figured it out yesterday. They were on it. Again, we have great technical people at TNT, so I think we'll be good moving forward. But yes, to answer your question, that's what it was about.
Hey, you've been around the NBA and done play-by-play for a long time. What do you make of, 5 games and 5 road wins in the Eastern Conference semifinals? Is that where we are right now? I know the road teams are undefeated so far. What do you make of that?
I think, it's this where we are now with the league in terms of the regular season is just not a real good indicator anymore of the pecking order of these teams. Like case in point, I was just talking to someone earlier today. I think you do yourself a disservice if you put that number 4 seed in front of the Pacers. I mean, this is not your typical 4 seed. I think Indiana's just as good as basically any team in the league. I mean, I know Boston's won it, and they're clearly the class of the East. And obviously Cleveland had a great year, but Indiana, based on what we've seen, they can beat anyone. I mean, would anyone be surprised right now if Indiana comes through the Eastern Conference in the postseason? I wouldn't. And I just think because of the amount of games that players are missing due to injury and load management during the regular season, I just don't think, the regular season has never meant a ton in terms of postseason success, but I think it means even less. Like, look at Golden State. I mean, does anyone see Golden State as a 7 seed? Of course not. But Golden State, obviously, maybe they're not a good example because they had the Jimmy Butler trade that really turned over their roster. But I don't know. I just think with the play-in tournament, teams resting and trying to manage the regular season, veteran teams, I just think we get to the playoffs and it's more of a surprise situation in terms of some of these teams coming through, and I think we've seen that clearly through the first couple of games of the second round.
He is Spero Dedes of TNT. Had the call last night. Has the call not Friday. When do you have the call again for this series? You coming back at any point?
Game 4 and then Game 5, assuming there will be a Game 5.
So you're going to be here this weekend then, huh?
We will. We'll be there for Sunday.
Well, we could work a little bit of I mean, I know it's Mother's Day and all. Maybe you dial it down a little bit, but we could work a little magic, you know.
No, you have your people call my people.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I will say this: it is going to be hellaciously fun downtown.
It's going to be great.
This is what we live for this around here, and especially when we get a little bit further, because again, you look ahead, and I'm not predicting any of this, but if you look ahead. You know, you're going to have the Indy 500. You could have the Indy 500 in the afternoon and then a, Eastern Conference Finals game in the evening. And there's some storied memory. I mean, really some tornadic story memories around here regarding those dynamics at play here, which could be. It's just always a great time of year when when your team wins, it's one thing, but it's when it's the Pacers and this time of year and you're in the month of May with the Indy 500 coming up on the horizon too, it makes it even extra special.
I've said it many times. This is the most special time of year. You know, springtime, weather's starting to warm up a little bit, especially in some of these cold weather cities. And everything that I think we don't love about the NBA regular season, with guys sitting and load management and all the things that I think have played the league, all of that stuff goes away. No back-to-backs, the playing field levels, and everyone's playing every night. And there's just nothing like it. The atmospheres in these arenas are just off the charts. And, the NCAA tournament's great, John. The NFL playoffs obviously are awesome, but I put the NBA postseason up there with any of those things. It's just fantastic.
When you getting in here then? I'll have my people get a hold of you.
Saturday, early evening.
Early evening on Saturday. So you got, a little preparation on Sunday. Yeah. So be ready to rock. You have any thought about whether or not those three main guys may give this thing a go on Friday?
Hard to tell. Too early. Yeah. Too early. I just think based on the need, based on the urgency of the situation, I would be surprised if at least one of those guys doesn't try to play. Mobley, I think, is the biggest X factor. I think Garland's getting closer. Hunter, the fact that it's a finger, I think he's probably the most likely. But the guy I would worry about is Mobley, and this is just me talking without any inside information. I hope all three play, just for the sake of just from a fan's perspective, so we can see these two teams at full strength.
Everybody, no doubt about that. Hey, Spero, safe travels getting here coming up this weekend, and great. I know that was one of those moments for you last night that's pretty cool when you're doing the play-by-play of it, regardless of who you're calling, or the city that you're in, or the guy that you're talking to in the city that you're in that ended up winning that game last night. But that was some amazing moments. So, one final thing. Do you think he missed it on purpose, that free throw?
I don't argue with you, John. So I think he did miss it on. If that's what you think, then I think he missed it on purpose.
Oh!
And that just adds to the lure of the moment. Because if he did that and he did it so perfectly as that thing came out, then holy cow.
If that were you, would you tell everybody you missed it on purpose? Because I would.
I probably would too.
Yeah.
Because I mean that you want everyone to know what's going on. You got to have a plan.
All right, man. Hey, safe travels. We'll check in coming up on Sunday or Saturday or something like that. Okay.
Sounds good, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Spero Dedes of TNT's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So he agreed. You think if we do somewhat of what would we call it, a straw poll right now, how many people would agree with me? You think more people would agree that he missed it on purpose? And again, I know I'm not suggesting he is not telling you the truth, because I think Tony East was the one that asked after the game, and he said he didn't. And I realized there's evidence of it looked like that he knew that it was short, and obviously he would be the first of all of them out there to know where it was going. Did you think he missed it purposely?
It really looked like it. You should do a Twitter poll on it.
A Twitter poll? Would you like to do a Twitter poll?
I can set it up for you.
We got the Twitter poll coming up. We got the race of the day for the first time back again coming up here too as well. 50-50 betting and dining. Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson, James, back again.
Yes, sir. It's back today.
We're going to be running for it. Coming up a little bit later on, your chance to win. I'm telling you what, 50-50 in betting and dining. You will dig that, I promise you. Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino in Anderson. And James will send this out. You think that, and does it matter in the big picture? It doesn't. Does it matter in the smaller picture of this show and me wanting to be accurate and proven accurate by poll? 100%. And we'll do that. Free throw miss purposely or genuinely a miss. Do that coming up. With a poll on the other side, Dean and Ike's going to lead coming up next as well. I mentioned the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day is back, and we have qualifying tickets to give away as well, so do not go anywhere. Yeah, unbelievable last night it was in game number 2. Game 3, Friday, Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Game 4, Sunday, Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Be ready to be charged up on this Mother's Day weekend, and we'll help get you there. It's 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Bobby, I'm your white knight.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
2:09 to go. The Pacers running out of room for error. Trailing by 7. Mitchell again. Whips it to the far corner. Strus drives the baseline, gets to the goal. Turner altered the shot as he tried to go up and under left to right and then took down the rebound. 1:54 left. Siakam all the way to the hoop, and he's got a chance for a three-point play.
Big moment right there. And Siakam did not have a Siakam type of game, but that was a big moment, definitely. Pacers 2-zip, best of 7, Eastern Conference semifinals. Game 3 coming up at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Friday night. Spero Dedes of TNT had the call on TV last night. He just joined us, Kevin Bowen, in the morning show a little bit earlier, and Jeremiah Johnson of Pacers TV. The podcast, all three, can be located 1075thefan.com. James put up the poll, so have at it. Did Haliburton miss that second free throw purposely? I know that it doesn't matter, but can I do it for S's and G's because I'm amused and because I want to prove my point to be accurate? Even though the guy that missed it and then got it back and then drained the three to win it said that he didn't miss it purposely. We've got to go more in depth. So James put that up. I sent it out via X one more time. That is the poll. POLL. Do you think Haliburton missed that free throw purposely? If I give you this quote, can you quickly figure out who said it? You ready? Quote, I want to apologize to Indiana. I'm a man, and I was wrong. Y'all aren't a boring basketball team. Y'all can get out of my mentions. End quote. Who said it? James? Who said it? I want to apologize to Indiana. I'm a man, and I was wrong.
It's not just because of the y'all. Charles Barkley?
Not Charles Barkley.
Okay.
Lou Williams.
Oh.
Lou Williams from whatever the hell that FanDuel show is with Chandler Parsons and I think Michelle Beadle. Is he a host of it? Remember when he said, I'm going to pick the Bucks in 6 because I've not watched the Pacers and they're boring? And Pacer fans evidently lit him up. So Lou Williams has apologized to Indiana and to Pacer fans for not knowing his ass from a hole in the ground. Well done. Well done, Lou. All right, 239. No, that's a good guess. Jennifer Berger said Evan Turner. That jackass wouldn't apologize for anything. I think we know that. He should apologize for the time he was here and he stunk. There's his apology. Hey, you stunk. Can you apologize for stank? Classic. Lou Williams, everybody. Let's do some calls. 239-1070. Dean is up next today. Dean, welcome to the show. How are you?
Pretty good, JMV. Hey, I just had a question.
Yes.
How would you practice that shot, to make it? But then the other question I have is, do you think that you've seen anybody picking himself up ever off the floor when they're down by 20 points to go block a shot and to run down court and make another basket to try to get back into it like the Pacers have done in this last game?
I know, especially when you watch a guy that goes for 48 and is dancing after and one opportunities, and then on the defensive end when he falls down, sprawls out all over the floor for about 5 minutes, like Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, I agree.
It's a team effort. On that,
it is.
The free throw, when they put it back for the bucket, and he got hammered by 2 guys.
He did.
3 guys go down. But why isn't there a foul call on that? Why are they just looking?
Yeah, because they missed it. Because they missed it, much like they did the flagrant, too, and that should have been a flagrant because that looked like that was not excessive. My mom said, was that excessive contact from Neesmith's face to the elbow of Donovan Mitchell? And I said, yeah, I think vice versa here. But, yeah, they missed that, and they missed the N1 on him, too. So, you know what he kept doing? He kept playing. He kept playing through all that, and he, to me, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason why this Pacer team has looked the way that it has so far in the postseason. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, and I even noticed that some of their celebrations got cut short because the Pacers were going right back up the floor with the ball.
Yeah, and you notice, right, especially in the first quarter, that's exactly what the countermeasure was by Cleveland defensively. Because even off their makes, and they were making a lot early, the Pacers normally off the inbound would push it and then score like they did in game one immediately. And Cleveland was combating that by clutching and grabbing and holding Tyrese Haliburton. And he wasn't. Yeah. We talked about how, Dean, we felt that they were going to try to make him, they had to try to make him uncomfortable. And basically what Kenny Atkinson complained about in the pregame and then complained about after the game, his team did to start the game and for most of the game, specifically against Haliburton. They did that exact thing. That was their measure. Yep. Anything else, Dean?
No, not today.
Dean, that's wonderful. Thank you for the call right there. He asked, I think, initially how you would practice that. These guys practice everything. I mean, they're in the gym all the time shooting. Listen, I know I'm trying to convince myself. And listen, Haliburton said that he didn't. And we all take him on his word. What I'm trying to tell you is that in-game situation played out as perfectly as any execution out of a called timeout. You go back and watch. Nobody panicked. Everybody seemingly knew where they were going. And I'm assuming that, it's what you get from practice and knowing and playing together. That's what we talk about, the cohesion of a team and this group all the time. But when there was all that chaos going on, there was nobody more calm than you saw the Pacers, and that started with Tyrese Haliburton. He knew exactly where he was going. They ended up getting the perfect matchup against slow-ass Ty Jerome. And they ended up getting into, like a lot of people think, the whole step-back shot, that's a tough shot. And don't get me wrong, it's a tough shot, but he practiced this so much, that probably felt like, it looked like he knew it was going in from the time he left his fingertips, probably more of a layup for him. And I guess my argument is, I think the story is much cooler if you missed that purposely, because it was the perfect miss. It was soft. He knew where it was going. It seemed like his teammates knew where it was going. To me, Cleveland relaxed again because they thought that it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to make it, so they were on their heels. Could not have been more perfect. And then you had the execution that was also perfect. And you know the end result. James put it up there. You guys can answer it. That is a poll question. I can't remember the last time we did that, and I sent it out again. I would call it retweet, but I don't think you call it that anymore. So I'll be wordy and say, I sent it out again. And go ahead and vote. You can even describe it. You don't necessarily just have to vote and not describe it. You can describe it, too. And especially you can describe the means in which you believe I am wrong with my opinion and assumption on this. Ike's up next at 239-1070. Ike, welcome to the show. How are you?
Me.
Hello, Ike.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really care one way or the other.
No, I don't think you should, seriously.
Not. But one thing I recognized is once he got the ball, he took it back out, and he started dancing. I said, he's gonna go for the win. I said, he ain't going to the hoop for the tie.
Well, you saw. I mean, it was like a cartoon. His eyeballs. It was like a cartoon. His eyeballs got big when he saw Ty Jerome go out there and try to check him.
Oh, I didn't care who was guarding. Once I see him start dancing, I said, he's gonna jack that three. And guess what? I said, they in the wrong place at the wrong time because I knew he was making that one.
Yeah, it's pure.
And I wasn't shocked when it went in. I was like, hey, that's what Haliburton does.
Yep.
So, Reggie used to do it, and now Haliburton's doing it. So
very true, Ike.
Because everything's setting up for us to go all the way this year. Everything is setting up perfectly. The only team I don't want to see is Denver. I don't want to see that guy. I don't want to see him because he can score whatever he wants to. That's the only player left in basketball that I know can get a bucket whenever they need it.
Yep. Ike.
You know who I'm talking about.
I'm talking about Joker. He'll be doing it again tonight. Yeah.
I'll be sweating BBs if we play him for the championship. Anybody else? Let's go.
Ike, thank you for the call, man. I appreciate that. Ike's the right across the board about a lot of things. I will say this. I just want to see this group continue to push it because, going all the way back to the end of last year, how I wanted this thing to be the same. You're going to re-sign your own. Essentially, you're running it back, and everybody thought, well, every time we say or use the term running it back, it's a description about the Colts, and we've seen how that's worked out. I wanted to see this group back together because I felt they had games and play and a ceiling, much like we have witnessed so far. And I will also tell you this is one, if not the, it is right up there with the most enjoyable teams that I've ever talked about and ever watched around here. Thus, I don't know when the last time I wanted to see a group win as much as I want to see them win because I like them as much as I do. Like somebody had mentioned last night, I was talking about the turnovers, the volume of turnovers. I was talking about how brutal they were. A lot of those were, I'm not going to suggest unforced errors, but they look, compared to what you normally get in a line of defense, it looked like they're just brutal. I'm not going to say half-assed either. I guess unforced would probably be the best way to put it. It's just not what you normally get out of this team. But even in the moments in which you're critical, if you're critical about that or have to be critical about a player, it's always in the back of your mind that this group is never going to give up. Automatically, if you're from the state of Indiana, I mentioned this to Kevin Bowen, the moment you slide out of the birth canal, you love basketball and you love the team version. You're taught the team version of basketball. This is one of the best versions of team basketball that the NBA has to offer and has had to offer. And you love it because this has been built through drafting and trades from the ground up. And I love the fact I wanted to see this group come back. And I love so far in this postseason that it's paying off. And beyond that, they're a really good group you can get behind. They're fun-loving, enjoyable dudes. They're honestly right up there at the top of my favorite of all time, regardless of how this goes the rest of the way. Most enjoyable of all time. Is this Bryson? At 239-1070, welcome to the show. How are you?
Pretty good yourself.
Great, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of going based on what you said, they did a good job out of that timeout. Cleveland was exactly the opposite. So this morning I was rewatching it on the TNT OT. It gives you that weird camera angle above the goal. But that timeout, Atkinson goes up and they have people talking to Jerome, and 3 times they try to tell him what he's supposed to do, and you can tell he doesn't understand it. Nembhard gets that steal on the inbound.
Yeah.
Then Haliburton cooks him for the layup. But then Jerome completely screws up because he was supposed to be boxing out Haliburton on that free throw. Mitchell goes in, and Jerome goes for the ball, and he gets tipped back to Haliburton. So if he'd just stayed on Haliburton boxing him out, Haliburton doesn't get it. And then obviously he cooks him again for the
and then defensively, I mean, what you want to do is have him go for the 2 at best, and you want to filter him to Jared Allen, which he didn't do that either. I said this a little bit earlier. Ty Jerome was 1 of 17 or whatever, 1 of 14, whatever he was from the 4. He had arguably the worst game of his life, which followed up not a great game in game number 1. So I thought you could tell his head was absolutely spinning. And the moment they got that matchup out of that chaotic free throw miss, that I thought you felt pretty good about, at the very least, the Pacers getting that thing tied up. But you could tell that Haliburton went for exactly what he wanted. He got exactly what he wanted out of that in the matchup and then the shot he was looking for. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yep, no, it was perfect. Jerome drove me nuts on the first drive of the game for him when he jumped into Turner and hit his face on Turner's chest standing there and was whining about the play call. But I'll give Mitchell props. He at least was trying to hush the crowd whenever they were trying to, do the unrated chant. But he needs to put the shoulders away now.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, they got you got to get this. I mean, the guy can't be sprawled out there every 5 minutes for about 5 minutes of the fourth as he was. He was, and it wasn't that way in and one situations. So it was different.
I've never seen somebody so talented only make shots with their right hand, though. Have you noticed that with Mitchell? He only shoots with his right. It's unbelievable.
I mean, he played bully ball with the Pacers. That's basically what he was doing, because the 3-point shot has not been effective whatsoever for him, and he's just kind of going with what's getting it done, and that definitely is getting it done. Hey, Bryson, I appreciate the call. Thank you.
Nope, thank you.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. Final time. Again, James has the poll up. Tell him, James, where they can find it right now. The poll is up.
It is up on X, formerly known as Twitter. My Twitter is at James A. Radio.
At James A. Radio. James Adams Radio or James Ass Radio?
Well, James
A
is in Adams. Well, I can say James
James Ass Radio. Quick break. We'll come back. Qualifying tickets closing out this show with you coming up on the other side. Stay right there. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, Jason is the winner. The Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino Race of the Day. Alpha Male. That sounds familiar. Paid $18 on a $2 bet. The $2 exacta was $67.80. 50-cent trifecta went for $57.20. That is your Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day. Harris Hoosier Park has live standardbred racing through November the 29th. Keep tuning in to this show and check out my X account at JMV 1070 for your chance. I want to give it to you, 50-50 betting and dining. That's a party at Harris Hoosier Park. Racing and Casino, the race of the day right here on The Fan, everybody. Well done. Out of Jason with a winner right there. JMV, you got to love Garland on the bench, snickering like a high school girl who was just invited to the prom from Bob. Oh, nicely done. Skivvy says at 156, Dan Patrick says, quote, Haliburton is going to miss the free throw on purpose. You guys aren't back 55% so far in our incredibly inaccurate poll presented by James Adams. 55% say, no, he didn't. So you're disagreeing with me, which is complete and utter BS. Corey's up next at 239-1070. This is not Corey Kenny, is it?
It might be.
You're not going to talk about the Cubs here and make me want to puke, are you?
No, not till the end when I hang up.
Oh, man. Cubs
No, don't worry about it.
conversation. No, I'm just joking. Go ahead.
No. So I got two things. One,
All right.
Haliburton for sure missed that free throw. That was on purpose.
There you
he
go.
never misses to the right
That'll make up if you mention Go Cubs Go at the end of this call. Well done.
No, I would never mention Go Cubs Go unless it's Saturday. He 100% missed that on purpose. It was a perfect tip from Turner back to Haliburton. And then the greatest part was is just listening to Atkinson just complain like it's Phil Jackson 2.0.
It is. It is 100%.
From the whatever that year that was, 98, 99, 98.
All of them.
Yeah.
He did it every single time, every year. Yes. That's why he has a playbook. Yes.
Exactly. And I'll leave you on this one. I know that you got to get going here pretty soon, but I know we lost today, but Go Cubs Go, baby.
Yeah, I knew it was coming. Corey Kenny right there, my brother. The pride of Hamilton Southeastern. Great dad, too. Hey, we've got qualifying tickets, number 9 at 239-1070. Who wants to go? Who wants to go on me? Who wants to be a part of it? Grand Prix coming up this weekend. Qualifying next weekend. And then the world's greatest party with me weekend coming up for the greatest spectacle in racing. Bronze Fun Time Campers. I talked to Austin. The RV is going to be out there and ready to go. Carb Day, Saturday, race day, Sunday through Monday. Coke Lot JMV Takeover live. I believe we have some reps from Twin Peaks coming out there as well. We have Doug Bowles, Speedway Prez. We're going to even have some security. No, this is going to be awesome. Coke Lot, race weekend to the next level for us. So thank you to Bronze Fun Time Campers. And Austin, ask for Austin today. Go out there on Pendleton Pike. Tell them that I sent you. Spero, Dedes, Kevin Bowen, Jeremiah Johnson, podcast 1075thefan.com. James, great day out of you. Back with you tomorrow at 3. We're going to have us one hellaciously awesome weekend coming up on the inbound. Enjoy the time with us.